So South Africa have won the first test by 87 runs against the West Indies in 3 days, and it was quite an entertaining game, I would say, for the bowlers, not so much for the batters. Um, we would have hoped that the batters obviously put on a better performance than they did. They didn't, and we had Temba and KG that had to front up to the media to talk about different things. There are two clips that I'm going to play for you. These two little things that you guys have been maybe wondering about. One is Timba's captaincy. I got a clip from KG to give you some insight into what he thinks about Timba's captaincy, and then also about the night watchman situation and why they didn't bring out the night watchman, and also the whole Rickleton scenario. Timba speaks about having that seventh batter, etc., and what was the thinking behind it and picking certain players. So we're going to be dealing with all of this today on today's show. We're going to be talking about this first test between South Africa and the West Indies that was at Centurion. There's also a couple of things on the channel for you guys to watch as well that you guys can dig your teeth into. I mean, I did an exclusive with Ashwell Prince today to ask him about that step up, about stepping up to Test cricket, etc., and what the youngsters can learn from the likes of him and also other players on that step up and how they can play more red ball cricket, of course. So this is a jam-packed show, guys. I'm going to be getting into all of that. Also, you know that I start the show with obviously reading out your comments in the comment section. So I will start from the beginning and then talk it through. This is also a call-in show where you guys have to get to call in and come chat to me and also give your thoughts on the Proteas victory as well. But before we get going, before we get started, you know, there's a couple of things here that you guys have to do. Please subscribe to this channel. Please click that notification bell for all future videos. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, and share. And also download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. The link is on the screen right now, as well as in the description. You can also help us promote and grow South African cricket, as well as Cricket Fanatics magazine, by becoming a patron today. Link is on the screen, as well as in the description. And go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your regular updates, features, etc. That's all on the website, reports. There's a match center on the site as well. So go in and get your content and your fix on your daily fix on cricketfanaticsmag.com, besides our video content on this channel. So guys, without further ado, let me get straight into today's video. A very good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host, Khalid, and this is the show where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket, and particularly about the Proteas' first victory in the first test against West Indies that happened in Centurion. And it was quite an entertaining match. So basically, for the guys that didn't get to watch it, the Proteas bowlers were ruthless on day 3 and they knocked over the West Indies for 159 to claim an 87-run victory in the first test. The Proteas opened the bowling with Kagiso Rabada and Andy Nokia today, and Rabada removed the Windies skipper Craig Brathwaite. Actually, they started yesterday for a second time just before lunch. After lunch, both bowlers bowled with discipline and accuracy, beating the outside edge consistently, and that was something that was very prevalent in this game. They were bowling perfect lines and lengths. They were beating the outside edge. They were getting close calls. There was even a drop catch from Keegan Peterson on Nokia's third delivery in the slips, and it could have been a perfect start after lunch, but it was not to be. And Tagner and Chanderpaul actually survived an edge. The pressure was applied finally. The pressure that was applied was finally gave the Proteas the reward they deserved, and Rabada drew Raymond Reefer into a drive, which he edged to Heinrich Klaassen behind the stumps at the end of his 4th over. The West Indies were reduced to 12 for 2 after 7 overs, of course. Marco Janssen's second ball made up for the drop earlier on, getting the wicket of Chanderpaul. Fittingly, it was Nokia who got the chance at mid-wicket, which was excellent to see. What was also a nice thing to see is after that drop catch from KP, I watched the body language to see, because at first Nokia was quite angry that that catch was dropped. But KP ran right over to Andrik Nokia and embraced him, or gave him apologized, and Andrik Nokia gave him a handshake and a tap on the back, to say it's okay, bro, it happens. So that was very nice to see that the team chemistry was still good after that. It was Marco Janssen, though, that came in after quite a disappointing little period. It wasn't really a crazy period because they weren't scoring many runs. But Marco Janssen's second ball made up for the drop catch early on, of course, like I said, to get Chanapol and Nokia taking that wicket at mid wicket. Marcus struck again with the next delivery as well. That was excellent delivery. Janssen bowling, he bowled Ruston Chase first ball, pinging the top of the off stumps. And that's when West Indies were really struggling on 20 for 4. And that's when it started to look like South Africa were in the driving seat to win this match. But the West Indies, they moved along, and they constantly just kept on ticking at the target. But that was particularly thanks to Blackwood. Proteas kept the pressure but they kept on taking wickets. South Africa, they kept on taking the opposite ends wickets. So Kutsia found the edge of Kyle Mayers, who was very destructive actually in the last innings, and it went straight into the slips at Dean Alga at first slip. And then they were 33 for 5, and that's when the total game looked like it was in South Africa's flavor. But then the Centurion wicket actually proved to not be as easy to batter on as many thought ahead of this match. The West Indians as well spoke in their press conference saying the same thing. They said it didn't actually look like it wasn't as flat as people speak or saying, or what they thought it would be. There was a lot in it for the bowlers, and I have to obviously give credit to the West Indian bowlers who actually bowled superbly as well. But Blackwood batted beautifully as well. He brought up his 18th career half century, and he took the fight really to the Proteas, making it very difficult for them to continuously take wickets. But they struck on the other end again. Joshua De Silva was out. He only managed 17. And the West Indies were then reduced to 91 for 6 after 25 overs. The West Indies got themselves to 128 when Rabada found the edge again. But this time he moved Jason Holder, who was really looking good for his 18 of 20 balls. He was really smacking the ball around. He was looking comfortable at the crease, and then all of a sudden, just lost his wicket. Then they continued to chip away at the deficit, slightly though. Nokia broke the momentum with his first wicket of the day and his only wicket of the day. Alzari Joseph finding KG at long leg. And then the visitors lost their 8 for the 139 runs, needing 108 for victory. That was a point that I thought, okay, cool, South Africa has to win this match. Then the deficit was reduced to 90 when Rabada took his 13th 5-wicket haul, removing the informed Blackwood, which was the turning point in the game. And West Indies also thought that Blackwood himself said that he also thought that that was a turning point. 79 of 93 balls, which included 12 fours in his innings. A remarkable performance from him. You would have obviously wished to push on to that 3 figures. But then Rabada wrapped it up and got 6 for 50. That was his 6th for the day, and he trapped Kemar Roach LBW to skittle West Indies for 159. And that gave the Proteas the victory, an 87-run victory, in fact, and they went 1-0 up in the 2-match series. So, fantastic performance from South Africa. But I have to also mention that the West Indian bowlers took the fight to South Africa 100%. I have to say, in the first innings of South Africa, it was obviously Alzari Joseph that was fantastic with 5 for 81. And when it came to the second innings to skittle South Africa out for 116, which was actually what happened, it was Kemar Roach that took 5 for 47. So those were the star players in this particular match that I would say. And then from South Africa's point of view, we didn't even use our spinner in this to take the wickets, and we ended up winning the match quite comfortably. So let's get into the live chat and see what you guys have had to say in the live chat. I'm going to try to get to as many as possible. The next match, Rickerton should play instead of Mutasami, says Shushank Shuberi. Gerard van Tonda says, Proteas, to solve the batting problems, we need to play more tests. Example, play Zimbabwe and Bangladesh, annual batting camps, one camp in South Africa and another camp in India. I know money is an issue. I agree with you. I think Enoch needs to find a way to get us to play some games, even if it's not official tests, maybe against Ireland, maybe against Zimbabwe, etc. To get us give Shukri some time to prepare this team for that India Test series in South Africa. So good idea, I think. Excellent point there, Gerard. Aditya Singh saying, when is the ODI and T20 squad coming? Please tell. Also, Khalid, how are you, my bro? I'm okay. I do feel a bit burnt out though. Very tired. It's been a very, very long cricket season so far with the SA20, with the Women's World Cup, under 19 Women's World Cup, and now the Test series. I am actually burning out, but I'll push through because I need to provide you guys with content as best as possible. Robin, and I don't know when the T20 and ODI squads are going to be coming. I'll try to find out before the full focus is currently on the tests. So they haven't really spoken about the ODIs and T20s quite yet. Ruban says bowlers essentially won this match with help of Markram. SA needs to get better batters to replace Zozi, KP, and Mutasami to bolster the batting side. If we play the same team, West Indies might get a win. I don't 100% agree with you on the Zozi and KP. And to an extent, Mutasami, his technique looks good, but he just hasn't gotten himself going. And everybody actually struggled on this wicket other than Aiden Markram, to be honest with you, as well as Blackwood. Those are the two guys that really stood out in the series, I would say, as well as Remo Reifer. He was also fantastic as well. So I do think that South Africa they do need to improve their batting. But if you think about it, they haven't really had a massive opportunity. To drop the Zorzi right now, I think would be unfair. It's his first test match. So for us to be that critical of him is a bit, I think, too soon and too premature. Well deserved man of the match award for Markram. He was the difference between the two teams, 100%. So Stemba, the best captain ever. It's very early for you to say that. He marshaled his bowlers quite well. He captained well in the field. And yeah, I've got a little clip from KG to speak about Temba's captaincy, which I'll play after I read out these live chats. Good win by SA. Need that after England, Australia. Still a lot of work ahead, in particular our batting. That's been our biggest Achilles. It's not coaching issue for me. It's a mental one. And I think so too, Lawrence. But it's also I think time together as a unit. This batting unit needs to spend some more time together, and also they need to learn from each other. And we need our players to step up now. I mean, KP needs to find some form. Temba Bavuma needs to improve on the last game on this game. I mean, a pair on a debut as captain isn't the greatest, even though they were. He's the 25th person captain to face this to see this fate, including Abid de Villiers and Faf du Plessis. That is not an excuse. He needs to be better as a senior batter and captain of the team. He needs to be the glue of that middle order. And I wasn't very impressed with him, even though he got one good delivery, actually two deliveries to take his wicket. Felt for Mutisami, you should have never played this game. Not that he's not good enough, but because he's been averaging 15 this season. Something for the coach to think about for Johannesburg. Johannesburg's going to be very different, though, I think. I think spinners are going to come into play in that match. So we might even see Keshav and Simon Armour as a possibility. Two spinners could be going into that Wanderers game, dependable on the conditions. I'll have a look at the pitch when I have a chance and try to speak to the groundsman. I haven't spoken to Evan Flint in forever, so I'd like to have a catch up with him and try to ask him how he's doing and maybe talk to him about the wicket and then try to give you guys some insight on that. Kevin Peterson has now played 11 tests and averages less than 30. Should he be given a longer run? Bro, it's test cricket. Give the guy a longer run. He's had a lot of disruptions in his test career with COVID and um, with injuries, etc. So let him find his rhythm. Let him go through this period. I mean, you have to struggle. I mean, we gave Markram ample opportunities. So if we're going to give Markram this amount of opportunities, we should also give other batters, if there is potential there and we can see that they can improve, let them give him time with the new coaching staff, give him time with the new coach. Let's see how he develops from there. KP did nothing in any other series other than India series. He averaged 29 of the 11 tests. Think he might be dropped. I think it's a bit harsh to drop him so soon after his return. Finally, the Proteas opening batters made a 100 partnership after a long time. 100% Ikram. Khalid is Mashal from Caribbean Cricket Podcast coming on the show today. He can't come on the show today because he was on the train when I messaged him. We will do a separate show, maybe either tomorrow or this week sometime, um, to for you guys specifically to give you guys what you actually want. You want to see a combined show between us and the Caribbean podcast, cricket podcast. So we will give you that, guys, at the time that actually suits him. So I'll have to obviously accommodate him and his times because he's in England and he's 2 hours behind. And this show is actually prime time for South Africa. That's why I have it at 7. So I'll have to shift ours, and you guys will have to maybe stay up a little later so that I can accommodate these times because he works as well, guys. So it's very difficult to find a time that suits us, especially when the time difference is two hours at the moment. When England obviously have the time switch, it's a lot easier. Sen and KP have to be dropped. Why can't coach take decisions? This is the first time the coach is given a chance to select our team and make a plan. Why didn't he send night watchman? Um, oh my lord. I've got a special guest for you guys. A guy that hasn't been on the channel in a while. So welcome to the show, cricket connoisseur Aaron.
It is fantastic to be on again, Khalid. It really is. Sorry it's been a while. Apologies for that. Has been very, very busy with county cricket and all the test cricket, but
Hmm.
I saw you're on your own tonight, so I thought, you know what, make a special appearance, start 2023 off with a bang. So here we are. Good win for the Proteas as well.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts? Let's get straight into it. What's your thoughts on the performance? I mean, obviously a new era. Shukri Conrad at the helm. A lot more. He's a lot more aggressive in his approach and a lot more stern in his approach. Kind of teacher like in a way. But our bowling attack again saving us once again in this particular test match. But good to see obviously Aiden Markram get some runs and Dean as an opening partnership. But what's your thoughts on the match as well?
To be honest, Khalid, I think you've just taken the words completely out of my mouth there. I mean, it's a fantastic win, obviously, for the Proteas. Morale-wise, it's a great start to the new era, but it is the same old mistakes creeping in, isn't it, at the end of the day, in particular in that second innings. Let's face it, in this particular match, without that opening partnership and that stand between Markram and Elgar in the first innings, we could be looking at a different result. So I don't think we can get too far ahead of ourselves. There are things which obviously need to be worked upon, but yeah, it's a good start to the new regime. Bavoom, I thought, led the side very well. And when you mentioned the bowlers, Kahiso Rabada, I mean, I'll never tire of watching this guy. Genuinely, he's a top three bowler on the planet right now. He gets the ball moving, he's fast, he's short, he's sharp, he's energetic. He's sensational. He really is. So I'm looking forward to this new era, to be honest, Khalid. I still think when it comes to the batting, there needs to be a clear-cut identity. Not maybe in the same way that England have like Bazball or something like that, but you know, there does need to be a way that these batsmen are winning games as opposed to just relying on the bowling attack. But some positives to be taken away from this win. Great start to the series, great start to the new era, and yeah, fingers crossed the second test match can also go in South Africa's favour.
Yeah. Before I get into the clips that I want to play and get your comments on too and the fans' comments, there is a super chat from Neil Govender once again. Thanks a lot for being such a great patron on this channel. You almost every single day you give us a super chat, so thanks a lot, bro. He says, "Great batsmen are born, not made. I don't think any of these batsmen have the potential to be great, except Markram, perhaps. What do you think, Khalid? Please give examples. I'll give you one example from South Africa, Hashim Amla. Hashim Amla came into the test arena, struggled, and then they worked on his technique. They took him out of the limelight, and they gave him some time away, and he turned himself into one of the best Proteas batters of all time, possibly one of the best batters of all time. So I don't agree 100%. I think with some good coaching and some experience, because South Africans lack that experience with regards to red ball cricket from a young age. It used to be like that back in the past, in Hashim Amla's age, in Hashim Amla's era. But now, these days, you can see my interview with Ashwell that I did from the ground today. He speaks about it there too. He spoke about the fact that our youngsters don't play. Well, I asked him about our youngsters that don't play red ball cricket. And I do think that test cricketers can be not necessarily made. They need to have some sort of talent at least. They must be able to show some sort of form at domestic level. But this is a false statement. Why I say that is because majority of our players coming through the system will have to be made into red ball cricketers because they're not born red ball cricketers. A lot of them are playing white ball cricket all the time. They're playing T20 cricket. They're getting pushed into that arena. Look at Theobald Brevis. He's going to have to be turned into a test cricketer. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. They're going to have to grow him into that. Someone like Ryan Rickleton too, I feel. I mean, Ryan Rickleton didn't start off his 4-day career on the bang at the beginning when he started for the Lions. He was a white ball cricketer at first, and people actually thought that you would be get his opportunities in white ball cricket first. But then he turned it on in red ball cricket, started scoring runs for the Lions, started being brilliant and consistent. And I think he should be playing in this test match. I thought he should have been playing in this test match. And it was a bit sad for me, from my point of view, that he didn't get a start. But I know that Shukri wants that type of all rounder, which I'm going to play next on the show. But Aaron, give your thoughts on this. Maybe you can give some examples from England or some from other parts of the country or other parts of the world, maybe that you've maybe seen this happen.
Well, to be honest, I was actually going to mention Ryan Rickleton because I completely agree. When he first started out, he was very much, I'm not going to say a white ball specialist, but you thought that'd be the avenue that he'd
Yeah.
go down. And then look at his first class career in the past few years. It's been quite an exceptional turnaround. So he would have been the South African example that I would have given. In terms of other ones, I suppose one for me as a Warwickshire fan would actually be an Ian Bell, because when he first started out with England, obviously he looked aesthetically pleasing, but nobody thought he was going to be one of the greatest Test cricketers of our generation. So I'd go with Ian Bell, because he used to have these fantastic strokes. Everyone knows the cover drive, that late cut as well, but it's all about consistency and converting those starts into 50s and 100s. But then as the career progressed, boy, oh boy, did he not do that for England, over 7,000 Test runs. So it can be done. And you've got to remember in cricket, obviously, regardless of the level, whether that's first class or Test cricket, you don't necessarily always get off to a fast start, do you? Some people develop at different rates. So I don't think you can make a sweeping statement saying that Test cricketers are necessarily born and they can't be made. But I do think with certain players, they do just have that special kind of attribute about them, don't they? And Markham, for many years, has had that kind of aura, that kind of feeling about him. But we do need to see it on a more consistent basis. And fingers crossed, I know we keep on saying this after he has performances like this, but who knows, 2023 can be a good year for Aiden, because the Proteas need him to be strong.
But and I think also with the way Test cricket is going, more attacking brand of Test cricket. It's not the same type of hardened Test cricket that we used to see in the past of guys batting it out and leaving deliveries and blocking for balls and in. I mean, England themselves have transformed Test cricket and the way it's being played. I mean, a lot of teams are trying to mimic that and copy that. And so, Test cricketers in the next generation of Test cricketers or the new generation of Test cricketers are going to have to be made, because they're going to have to switch their mentality into having to play a little bit more attacking. We can see Dean Alger over the last couple of series, he's been trying to play a much more attacking brand of cricket than he's used to. We're not seeing that Dean Alger of 150 balls for his 10. So, so like, it's not really that Dean Alger anymore. We're seeing ramp shots from Dean Alger in the Test, consecutive ones to get him out.
I mean, that just shows, doesn't it, where the game is heading. But, and I cannot believe this, but I find myself agreeing with a certain man by the name of Shaylin Naidu. I agree with Shay here. This is the problem with South Africa, and it is the elephant in the room for both of these teams in this series. It's a complete lack of Test cricket. So for these particular teams, unlike in England and Australia and India, for example, those teams which have the luxury, the privilege of developing their Test cricketers by playing multiple series over the course of the year, these teams are playing less and less and less Test crickets. And the less Test cricket you're playing, the less opportunities these guys who do develop at a later rate actually have to become good Test cricketers. So again, I've got plenty of opinions on that. You know I love Test cricket, Khalid. I've been talking about Test cricket on this channel for 4 years, but it will be a problem for South Africa in the future.
Mm-hmm. So there was a particular thing that I had issue with in this match, and that was yesterday, for example, the last half an hour. Batters came out to bat when the first wicket fell. Our whole middle order came out and all went out. We didn't bring out the night watchman. So I've got a little clip from Temba Bavuma's press conference that deals with the Rickleton selection as well as the night watchman thing, which I'm going to play now on the clip on this channel now for you guys, so that you guys can also see what the captain had to say, because he speaks about the coach specifically. It's not Temba's decision, or obviously completely by himself. There's obviously going to be a discussion amongst people regarding that. I think I'm going to the wrong place here. Okay, cool. So this is about that particular topic. The question was asked, stolen from me actually. I wanted to ask the question and then Ken asked it before me.
Coach's rule. From now on, there's not going to be any white watching. So us middle orders will have to find a way. And I think in terms of the composition, I think we were not good. Our plan was to go with.
Let me just pause it there quickly. He said that the coach has decided from now onwards is not going to be any night watchman. He wants the batters to front up. So that's what Temba said there. That's the coach's decision, and he said, I can try to actually wait, guys. Let me just try to actually increase the volume on this, because I mean they have speakers in the press conference room, but they put it on so quiet, so low volume. What's the point of us all like bloody trying to listen to this? So I will export that. But let's talk about that so long, Aaron. What do you think about that move? The fact that they are not going to be having any night watchmen for this particular games.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because again, you could go into the wider discussion of the need for the night watchman. In fact, I did an entire podcast episode on this, funnily enough, about 2 years ago. If you look at the history of the Night Watchmen actually fail on far more occasions than they ever succeed. It's literally a case of you block out a few balls for the Knights, and then they usually get out very early on in the morning. So I think that is the logic for the South Africans. Maybe that is a case of they see it as a wasted wicket. Teams like England, for example, we've got Stuart Broad, the Nighthawk. We see it as as a completely different kind of style and approach to the game. But I'm not sure that I agree with not having a night watchman for every single series or every single game. I think different games present different scenarios, and let's say you are absolutely struggling and it's the final over of the day, poor light, you've got a bowler steaming in, and you do have those wickets in the shed. I think a night watchman actually does have its use, even if it is just a case of seeing off that last over of the day, having that morale boost to wrap up what's been maybe a poor session or a poor day for the team. I do think they should change that approach ever so slightly. I think in this series, it's fair enough. But let's say, for example, they were struggling in a session or struggling towards the end of the day. I do think a night watchman could be implemented by this Proteas side. So I'll be interested to see how that actually does develop that mentality over the course of the year in different series.
Yeah, I mean, I asked that question on Twitter, and I
Well, what
got
do you
quite a,
make of it, actually, Khalid? What do you make of the night watchman in this Proteas side then?
you see,
What's your view?
when you have batters under eight, I think it would have been a good opportunity for someone like maybe Gerald who showed that he can bat. I mean, I would have used him as a night watchman, for example, just to get that 18 runs that he scores like quickly in that period, because it was 30 minutes left of the game, and then you lose all your top order. You put yourself in a crazy position. So I don't necessarily agree 100% with that sentiment. I think that a night watchman, certain night watchmen, can do a job for you, especially if you can have bowlers that can bat right down the order. Like I mean, Andrich Nokia in the past was our night watchman. That's why I call him Andrich Carlos Nokia,
Yeah.
because he showed some skills as a night watchman in the past. But I think now that you have a number 11 like Gerald Coetzee in the team, you have a perfect opportunity to play one of those guys. And if he didn't want to play a night watchman, he could have played one of his all-rounders. He could have maybe brought out Senator Mutasami and risked that rather. Because I mean, Senator was struggling a bit. It would have been nice for him to get some more time in the middle and maybe play towards the end. And if he loses his wicket, then okay, because he lost his wicket for 4 of 30 odd balls anyway. So I think that in this particular game, I think it would have been smart to bring one in. So I don't like the fact that Temba actually said that the coach said no, he doesn't agree with night watching at all. I'm trying to export this right now as we're doing it. Shouldn't take too long to play you guys
Well,
that clip.
just to pick up on that then, Khalid, while that does export, I think for me then the key with that would be the timing of the night watchman, wouldn't it? So, for example, in my situation, I had it as a real last resort at the end of the day, but I think if there were a few overs to go until stumps, then that is a completely valid and justifiable argument for batters to take responsibility. Because let's face it, this South African side has got a massive Achilles heel, and that is the batting. It's something we've been mentioning for years, haven't we? Let's face it. And potentially this is a way of altering the mentality of the team. We can no longer hide behind the bowlers who have been doing the job with the ball. Let's face it, they've been fantastic for years. The likes of Rabada, Anrik Nortje, the likes of Lungi Ngidi. I know he's not in this particular test match, but players like that, maybe it is a way of shifting responsibility and focus onto that batting lineup and making sure that these guys get the message. That's not just up to the bowlers. You guys have got to shift your weight as well, and you've got to contribute to winning test matches, even in those tough situations. So it's an interesting one. For me, I think it's unjustifiable to have a sweeping statement of we're never going to play a night watchman, But I think in this particular situation, I can see the logic and rationale behind it.
Yeah, and I also think as well that we need to be a little bit more patient with this particular side. We need to take this as a reset completely. This is a reset. It's a new coach, new mentality, new brand of cricket that we want to try to play. So I think we need to be a little bit patient and give people a chance. Everybody that got a chance now, we need to kind of think, okay, this is your start of your test career almost, in a way. It's the same way we were with regards to when Boucher took over. I said the same thing. I said, these are new guys that were being selected. Let's give them a chance. I didn't like the way we chopped and changed between Peter Malan, Aiden Markram, Zubair Hamza, all of these guys coming in and out of the team, and we're switching around all the time. I think that a prolonged run in Test cricket is important if the guys are showing some sort of talent. For example, Tony DeZorzi batted really beautifully until he got run out stupidly. I know he got a good delivery and got a tuck the next game and the next innings, but he showed some class in that on that wicket with Aiden Markram in the middle. So I think that it's too soon for us to just suddenly say, okay, let's drop him. The same with KP. He's been out for quite some time. I agree with Kelly that came on the other day, which he said maybe KP should have first been put into domestic cricket to play these last couple of Dolphins games because of the fact that he's been injured and had COVID and so many things. He has had one game under his belt before being picked for the test side again. And maybe we could have played Ryan Rickleton in that position instead, and in that number 5 slot maybe, coming in ahead of Klaasen. So I've exported this file. I hope that it's a lot louder. Both KG and KG's comments on the captaincy of Temba Bavuma is there, as well as the comments of Temba Bavuma. Let me just remove this one first. I completely forgot that that's on there. And Aaron says nothing. He just sits there and lets me be embarrassed.
I can't do anything. I don't have the control panel in front of me.
Okay, cool. So let's put this up. I hope this is a little louder, guys.
The coach's rule. From now on, there's not going to be any weight watching. So us middle orders will have to find a way. And I think in terms of the composition, I think we were not good. Our plan was to go with the 7 batters. Hence, Sen came in at number 7 instead of the usual cash up. We didn't expect it to offer much with spin, which I think it kind of proved over the 3 days. And that's why you saw kind of like Mutasami coming.
So there it is. They see Senator Mutasami as a batter first, which is interesting. When I first met Senator and watched him play, he was in a lot better form than he is right now. So I look at him and I look at the way he bats. You can still see that he has some technique. He's not just a slogger like Keshav. Keshav comes in, he wants to slog every ball like when he comes in, and then he gets a quick 46 or he gets a 50 now and again. But Senator looks a little bit more technical with the way he bats and approaches the game. So Shukri sees a batter in him in that position. So even though I think Ryan Rickleton should have played, I understand his sentiments, because if it did spin a little bit, then Senator could offer something with the ball as well in that number 7 slot. And I think he was hoping that the senior players would have stepped up and batted a lot better to the conditions, which I think they asked Temba about that, whether they misread the conditions a little bit. And he said, to an extent, they didn't think that it was going to move around so much towards the end of each day, because in day 1, day 2, and day 1 and day 2 and day 3, actually, that's exactly what happened. It's almost like the pitch changed within a session. After tea, bam, it was a new wicket almost. It looked like this wicket was divoting and it was moving around. The ball was moving off the seam. It was steep bounce, pace. Everything was this changed. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Aaron, can we move on to the next clip?
Of course, yeah.
About Temba's captaincy. So they asked KG about Temba's captaincy. And KG's always been quite an honest guy. He doesn't prepare himself for these press conferences. That's why sometimes he has a very long pause before he starts speaking. So this is what he had to say about...
I think the fact that Temba has been captain in the limited overs format, I think there is a familiarity. And the guys are used to his captaincy style. I think he knows what he's doing, and he's got the experience under his belt, and the guys are familiar with his tactics. And so it didn't feel surreal, it didn't feel that much different with him becoming captain. At the same time, you've got guys like Dean, guys like myself, and then the bowlers, they also think for themselves, and it's a collaborative effort. But at the end of the day, he has the last say, and he has a good feel for the game, and he adds massive input. And there are no disputes or disagreements with his tactics. He's willing to be open-minded and hear from the bowlers what they would like. And obviously with Dean having been captain before, he still plays a pivotal role within the side when it comes to leadership. He is our most experienced player. However, I think that the main point of Temba is that guys are familiar with him being captain and his captaincy style.
Okay, so that was that. So Aaron, I would like to get your thoughts as well. Munir, thank you for the super sticker. I haven't had a super sticker before on this channel, so thanks a lot for the super sticker. What's your thoughts on Temba at the moment? Because I mean, a lot of people gave him a lot of criticism because of his pay on his debut as captain. There are two famous South Africans that have also gotten a pay on debut, and AB de Villiers and Faf du Plessis when it comes to captaincy. First and foremost, what do you think about Temba in Test cricket, as well as what do you think of his captaincy? Because we saw that in full display in this particular Test match.
We did see it on full display in this Test match, but in terms of a general statement, it's far too early. Let's be completely honest, we can't exactly say how he's changed identity or the structure of this team after one Test match. But I think the key thing there with KG, and he mentioned that in the press conference, and something which I do like with captains, is taking on your most experienced batter's opinion and the bowler, your strike bowler, which is Rabada. So South Africa are forming a quote-unquote leadership group with those three, and I do like that. The fact that they can get consensus over the course of the game and obviously chop and change their tactics and strategies according to the situation. But in terms of the whole batting performance with Temba, obviously it was poor. I can't deny that. I mean, it doesn't really get much worse than a pair. But what I will say, it's not about how you start. It's about how you grow, how you develop, and of course, how you improve over the course of this captaincy tenure. So it's far too early for me to come out here and say Temba's a great captain, Temba's a terrible captain, all this, that, the other. But what we will say, obviously, when you're a captain with a bat in hand, you do have to score. You can't be a specialist captain in this era of cricket, regardless of the format. So definitely does need some runs, but I'm not going to be coming out with inflammatory statements and saying, oh, he's terrible, this, that, the other. Give him time. As we mentioned, new regime, new era, fingers crossed for South Africa in Test cricket, and that's all we can do. Give him a few series to really change the identity, the mentality of this team, and fingers crossed he can turn it around, because South Africa in recent years in Test cricket have been very poor for a team of their size and stature.
Dick says, but Khalid Dux didn't come in the first match of AB and Faf as Test captain. Was that the stat, Aaron? From what I know, it was the debut as Test captain, both of them. When they were captain, the debuts, they got the Dux.
I think Faf's was. I can't remember if AB's was.
Okay, so let me just look at it quickly. I did put it in my report yesterday, and I linked it just to double check. I took the journalist's word for it, actually, that put it out there. Is this it here? I think it's this one. I'll bring up the stats on the screen for you. Why can't I view this thing? What the hell's going on?
Just talking to the comments, Khalid, by the way, as well, there has actually been a very interesting conversation about the whole idea of the night watchman. I love that, because it is interesting.
Have a read out the comments over there, Aaron. It's fine while I look for this.
Well, let me just scroll back up to some of them, because it was just looking at a few of them. Something which Neil mentions, mentality is something you can always work on. South Africa have always had a weak mentality, which in recent years definitely is true. And that is something we've mentioned, and I've always mentioned the I word, which is identity. That is something which the South Africa side desperately needs with the bat in hand, whether that's playing a gritty, kind of stern and stubborn format of Test cricket, grinding down the opposition bowlers, or maybe going for a more counter-attacking, aggressive approach, such as the likes of England and Australia employ. We'll have to wait and see what Temba and the leadership group think in that capacity. But yeah, the Night Watchman debate is very, very interesting, I must say. It always comes up and everyone has their different thoughts on it. So yeah, I'm glad that the debates, the discourse is still alive and well. It is very, very interesting, I must say.
Yeah. So here's the list, guys. Let's not start with the 80s and 70s. Let's just go. Stephen Fleming is one on that list. Nasser Hussein's on that list. Waka Yunus, so some of the guys that is Sami, Abel de Villiers, Faf du Plessis as well, and then Temba Bavuma. So that's the guys, those are the captains that have had a pair on debut. So yeah. Okay. So that's what it says over here on this particular Click Info. So if you guys have a gripe with that, go talk to Click Info. Okay, so Aaron, I see some of the comments over here as well. Let's read some of them out and maybe discuss it a little bit. I'm not comparing AB and you see now this is what I don't like. People want to say let's not compare AB and FAF and all of this crap. I'm not saying that. I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying that you guys are criticizing him for getting a pair as a captain on debut. Then you should criticize AB and FAF also did the same. They also got that under their belt as well. So is it as big as a train smash as we're making it out to be? Yes, it's a big train smash that Temba hasn't scored a century, only scored 1 century in Test cricket. But he also batted very low down the order. But it's not an excuse because Quinton de Kock has had many centuries at the bottom of the order. So Temba has agreed that he needs to improve that, and he needs to improve that entire mindset. And I agree with that too. He needs to. He can't be just being a good captain. He can't just be a good captain. He needs to be a good batter too. Shukri, with some of good decisions, Aiden, for example, and some poor ones with class and etc. It doesn't matter though, as there are only 2 tests left for the freaking year. Yeah, that's a big problem. It was asked 3 times in this press conference. It was asked to the West Indians in their press conference about the test schedule for these smaller nations. Both West Indians said as well, Blackwood and who was the other person that spoke today? But I think it was Roach. Who took the 5 for today?
Yeah, Kemar Roach.
Kemar Roach. It was
legend.
2 of them.
Absolute legend, Kemar Roach. Deserves all the praise and plaudits he gets.
The 2 of them both mentioned it, and they said, look here, it's not fair that we get such a little test. But I'm hoping that Enoch makes a plan. Gets us maybe tests against Ireland, even if it is not official tests. Before the India series, we need to see some red ball cricket so that he can at least work with these guys and see what their flaws are. Because I don't think their flaws are necessarily or technical. It's mainly mental, I think, and approach and reading the conditions and playing according to them. So put ourselves in difficult situations. Let them go play test cricket and work over those mental hurdles. And maybe we'll see a difference, Aaron. What do you think?
Well, I think it does come back to the greater debate, doesn't it, on the future of Test cricket for these countries. And for me, as a fan of the Test formats, it's such a shame that we now have a big 3 and the rest. Because I've grown up idolising South African cricketers and West Indian cricketers and Pakistani cricketers, and there shouldn't be such a divide in the Test format. The fact that South Africa, a nation which has produced some of the greatest cricketers to ever play the game of cricket across formats, is playing 2 test matches for the rest of 2023, is absolutely appalling. And the ICC should be ashamed, to be honest, that they've let it get to this stage. How have we gotten to a point where we've got teams, and you've just mentioned it there, Khalid, a one-off test. I mean, we're crying out for a one-off test for South Africa. It's horrendous. Let's just call it out for what it is. It's absolutely atrocious planning. It's terrible scheduling, and something does need to be done to safeguard the future of Test cricket in these countries. It's the best format of the game. I know that people love T20 and 50 over. So do I. I absolutely love those formats. I love all 3 formats of the game. But Test cricket is the ultimate one. It's the pinnacle. When we talk about legends of the game, who do we talk about? Tendulkar, Dravid, Bradman. When we talk about bowling, we talked about likes of Shane Warne, Murali. We talk about Jimmy Anderson, Glenn McGrath, Dale Steyn. Exactly, in the modern era. But that's the thing. We mention, who do we start off when we say cricket legends? We mention Test cricketers. And these guys are not having the opportunity to develop. The next generation isn't having the opportunity to be inspired by these great Test cricketers. So it's a massive shame. It's something which obviously I think you can tell by my points and my kind of approach to this whole debate is something I'm tremendously passionate about, because I don't want to see Test cricket die out in South Africa or the West Indies or Pakistan. But we've got to look at the future. 2 Test matches for the rest of 2023 is atrocious. So, yeah, that's my thoughts and opinions on that.
So let's go to Sadiq. There's a caller on the line. Welcome to the show, Sadiq. What would you like to say, brother?
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. What about you, Khalid?
I'm fine, thank you. Just a little burnt out. I'm tired. It's been a long season, but I'll have some time to recover now, of course, because it ended early. So I've got some nice time to recover. So how are you doing, and what would you like to say about the Proteas performance?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things about selection. Basically, that you know, I saw on Twitter lots of stock was on Muthuswamy and other guys as well, but it was quite obvious when they selected and they left out Lungin. I mean, the numbers and the target is for real, and they have to maintain that. And basically, when they lost out on numbers in last couple of games, they had to improve it, and they can't play basically 7 or 8 whites in every game. So yeah, it was obvious from the start that they are going to play someone like Muthuswamy. But I think the selection of Klaasen ahead of Kyle Varane, or probably even Ryan Nicholton. I think if they dropped someone like Kyle Varane, they should have included Ryan as a wicketkeeper bet, which would have, I think, which would have made a lot of sense, because he has been the most informed player, and leaving him out along with Kyle, it was quite strange. I mean, to start with, going with Klaasen ahead of someone who has scored probably 500, I guess, in this season. It was
Yeah,
it was very strange.
yeah, it was one of the decisions that I really criticized was Calvareno. I think Calvareno was someone that has shown signs of being a good test player. He's shown signs of being able to fight when the team is down. I think this scenarios would have suited him the best when there was a team collapse and your keepers coming in. I think today would have suited him absolutely perfectly. That is the type of scenarios that Calvareno thrives in. When everybody expects him to fail, he performs. That's something that I really enjoy about his mentality. And that's the one thing that I criticize Shukri for is that with regards to Senator Mutasami, I don't understand. I don't know why they don't think of it in a way that you can pick 7 batters. Um, I don't know why they wanted to insist that it has to be a batting all-rounder. I think that this type of test match probably would have suited the 7th batter better because of the way the wicket was playing, especially when seamers are taking all the wickets. So it was a little bit of, I think, of a misread of the conditions, I think, because I think they weren't sure whether it's going to spin a little bit. I mean, even West Indies pick spinners. So, I mean, I think both teams misread the conditions a little bit, didn't think that the Centurion wicket was going to deteriorate as quickly as it did after one session. We've seen the wickets in South Africa struggle a bit. I've seen the wickets struggle a bit. I mean, Wanderers doesn't look the same. Newlands doesn't look the same. And then Centurion, to an extent, is not exactly the same wicket as it always used to be. So there's been a big change in the wickets in South Africa. I don't know what it has to do with. Yes, it's got to do with a lot of moving around with groundsmen, new groundsmen coming in, and obviously never done it before at the international level. Like, I mean, Newlands' groundsman has never done it at the national level before he came there. So he's now fresh and new to this whole arena, especially after the last groundsman left, who was the assistant to Ian Flint. So, or Evan Flint, sorry. So it's a very interesting scenario that we find ourselves in. Is there anything else you want to say, Sadiq? Maybe ask Aaron a question or something?
Yeah, I was listening to you guys talking about the lack of test cricket for the teams like South Africa or West Indies. Yeah, I want to add a couple of things. That is it that cricket South Africa or West Indies cricket board, do they really want many more cricket matches? I mean, test matches. They want. I don't think they want more test matches. because of the funding and all the issues it has. Someone like Bangladesh Cricket Board, which get more games than South Africa because they are willing to spend their money. So it is all about priorities, I guess, that what they want in near future. And yeah.
Well, yeah, that is 100% correct, and the buck does lie with Cricket South Africa as well, who are prioritising white ball formats and white ball cricket. But I think it is a mix of the two, to be honest. When it comes to the governing body, which is the ICC, they've not done a good job when it comes to these. I'm not going to say smaller nations, that's not fair at all, but the less financially viable nations, let's say, in comparison to an Australia, India, or England, for example, they've not done a good job in making sure these boards actually prioritise Test cricket. They don't give them good broadcast rights, for example. They don't give them, much help when it comes to safeguarding Test cricket in these nations. So that's the point I was making. Obviously, CSA comes into it, and prioritising the white ball formats is definitely something which CSA have done in 2023. But in terms of the future of Test cricket, in my opinion, and again, feel free to disagree with this, I do feel like as the governing body of sport on a global scale, the ICC does need to do more.
Thanks a lot, Sadiq, for coming on the show, bro. I hope you call in very, very soon, and we'll chat to you again
test
as well in the second test. Yes. Okay, so let's wrap this up, Aaron. I would like to get your final thoughts and where you are sitting currently with regards to this match. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the West Indies or something. Let's just wrap this up and what's your final thoughts?
Well, yeah, just one thing to say with regards to the West Indies. We've spoken an awful lot about South Africa in this show.
I was trying to keep it a little bit for Michelle when he comes on the show this week.
Yeah,
that's what I want to do. Yeah, but I mean, you can go ahead. We need to talk about it.
Well, something especially which he will mention is technique, and it is the West Indies playing of fast bowling. It still looks really shaky. It really does. I mean, this Test match could have been won by the West Indies. I'm not going to say easily because the quality of that South Africa attack is absolutely sensational, but at the same time, when it comes to the short ball in particular, they look so scared of it. They really do. So that's something which has to be worked on. I don't know if there's a quick fix. I don't even know if there is an immediate solution to this, to be honest, for the West Indies. But that is such a worry heading not just into their next few years in Test cricket, but again, the immediate future as well for the next Test match. South Africa will be licking their lips when it comes to that batting lineup. So, yeah, not a great showing from the West Indies with the bats. Obviously, Kemar Roach, he was outstanding. I was very impressed with Zari Joseph as well. But
love him.
Yeah, he is good. He is very, very good to watch. But yeah, not a good Test match at all for the men in maroon. I think they'll be kicking themselves, to be honest, after that second innings.
Yeah. So, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Aaron, thanks a lot for coming on the show as well. There's a couple of things on the channel that I'd like you guys to watch. A behind the scenes of the Centurion Cricket Company. Did a behind the scenes of where these players get their bats, etc. I actually saw the guy run out onto the field just before the first day to give Marco Jansen a new pair of boots. It was funny. So a lot of them get their stuff from this particular ground, etc. All those bats and the pads and everything from the shop. So I did a behind the scenes kind of video of it. The store manager didn't really want to do an interview. I got him to do a thumbs up at the beginning of the video at least, so you guys can see who he is. But you'll see all the things that is available at that store. I haven't got me a cool hat. Proteas cap, first ever Proteas cap I've ever owned, so I bought me one of these. It's not very expensive, so I got me one of those ones. And then I've also done an exclusive interview with Ashwell Prince. Please go look at that on the channel as well. I'll be putting up the story very soon as well. We got AV to write an exclusive from the quotes, so that you guys can also read it on cricketfanaticsmag.com. But there's a couple of things also that I'd like you guys to do. Please subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell for all future videos. But also download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine Monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. We are working on the new issue as we speak, actually. There's a couple of people writing and interviewing people as we speak. So we're working hard on that to get that out. Also, if you want to help us promote and grow South African cricket, please become a Patreon today. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. It also helps us grow the company as well. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all regular updates. Thanks a lot, everybody, for coming on the show. Thanks for the super chats today and the super sticker. Thanks, Aaron, for joining me and not leaving me alone here and leaving me out to dry, hanging me out to dry. So thanks a lot for joining me. And I missed you on the chat. I hope you come on again very, very soon.
I will be.
We've missed you on the channel a lot. So, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace out.